Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 28. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC 283, also a big weekend in mixed martial arts. We have Bellator 290 on Saturday, and we also have UFC on Saturday, and that goes into the early morning of Sunday. Very excited for this weekend. Ring that bell. All right, let's get into UFC 283. It took place in Brazil, so the crowd was, really starving for MMA out there. Fans have not seen a live MMA event in Brazil since, I believe, 2019, so they were starving for MMA. Let's get into this card. Daniel Marcos had a TKO victory to start the card off. Then we had a women's featherweight bout. We had Josanne Nunez taking on Zara Farham dos Anjos, and Nunez gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Warley Alves taking on Nicholas Dalby, and Nicholas Dalby gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Ismail Bonfim taking on Terrence McKinney, and Bonfim with a stellar flying double switch high knee gets the KO on Terrence McKinney. McKinney falls face first into the canvas. What a flying knee knockout by Bonfim. It looks like he has a bright future in the UFC. For McKinney, it just seemed like he was a little off during the fight. So, hopefully he rebounds in his next fight. I still think he has a lot of talent, but Bonfim with a statement, knockout win. Moving on to the next fight, we had Cody Stanman getting a decision victory. And the next fight was a heavyweight bout. We had Shamail Abdurov taking on Jolton Almeida, and Jolton Almeida gets to the second round TKO stoppage. Definitely a big win for Almeida in this heavyweight division. So he should be ranked. Very interested to see how he progresses in this upcoming year. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Gabriel Bonfim, and he got the submission victory in round number 1, just 49 seconds into the fight. Very impressive, victories for both of the Bonfim brothers. So congratulations to them. In the next bout, we had a lightweight matchup. We had Thiago Moisés taking on Costa, and Thiago Moisés gets the submission victory in the second round. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout. We had Gregory Rodriguez taking on Bruno Ferreira, and Bruno Ferreira gets the KO finish on Rodriguez. I mean, he was out before he hit the canvas, Rodriguez. Just Ferreira. What a statement victory. I believe it was his UFC debut. He's now 10-0. So, hey, this is definitely a guy to look out for in this middleweight division. Next up, we had a light heavyweight bout. We had Mauricio Shogun Rua in his retirement fight taking on Ihor Potieria. And unfortunately, Ihor Potieria gets the TKO finish, in the first round. It's unfortunate that Mauricio Shogun Rua could not get a victory in his last fight, but, I think he retired at the right time. So just a legendary career for Shogun, and, he was amazing in Pride, had a great run there, became a UFC light heavyweight champion against Lyoto Machida, and then he obviously lost it to John Jones, but, what a career for Mauricio Shogun Rua, and I wish nothing but the best for him in his retirement. Now let's move on to the main card. The first fight on this main card was a light heavyweight bout. we had Paul Craig taking on Johnny Walker, and Johnny Walker gets the TKO finish in the first round. It was a little bit of an odd finish, but Johnny Walker, he got his leg caught by Craig, but Johnny Walker, a big hook hurt Craig, and that was just the beginning of the end for Craig. Johnny Walker hits him with that hook, rocks him, and eventually finishes him on the ground. So, a very impressive win for Johnny Walker. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Lauren Murphy taking on Jessica Andrade, and Andrade just dominated from bell to bell in this fight. I thought in the third round it could have been stopped. Obviously, Lauren Murphy has come out and said that, she's glad that her corner didn't stop it. Look, to me, it was pretty brutal. That third round, Lauren Murphy, I didn't think was gonna come back. She was definitely down 2-0 going into that third round, and her face was just obliterated. Just a bloody mess. Cuts everywhere, and Jessica Andrade it was just a brutal showcase for her. So she is definitely a contender in this women's flyweight division. She's got just amazing stand-up, and she's very strong. She is a hard matchup for anybody in this women's flyweight division. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Gilbert Burns taking on Neil Magny, and Gilbert Burns with a statement submission victory in the first round. Just a very impressive performance by Burns. To submit Neil Magny in the first round, that is impressive in itself. So, Gilbert Burns, continues to hold his spot in this welterweight division. Moving on, we had a flyweight co-main event. We had the champion Davison Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno. This was the fourth time that these men have faced each other, and Brandon Moreno, Brandon Moreno dominated for 3 rounds, and then in the middle of round 3 and 4, the fight was stopped because Figueiredo's eye was just shut and he could not see out of it. I did not have a problem with the stoppage. Figueiredo's eye looked really bad, and Brandon Moreno wins this quadrilogy, I believe, the first ever, and he is now the new flyweight champion. Davison Figueiredo announces that he is going to move up to bantamweight, so look out for Figueiredo in the bantamweight division now. That's really exciting. I feel like he's going to have so much more power. He's not going to drain himself trying to cut down to 125. And just, what a quadrilogy these two men put on. Just much respect to both of them. I mean, they put the flyweight division on their back for the past, 3 years, putting on these amazing fights. Moving on, in the main event, we had a light heavyweight bout. We had Glover Teixeira taking on Jamal Hill for the vacant light heavyweight championship, and Jamal Hill gets it done by unanimous decision, 50-45s across the board. Jamal Hill, what a performance by him. He showed that he can compete with just elite grapplers in this division. He stuffed a lot of Glover Teixeira's takedowns in this fight. I was not expecting that. He survived being on his back a couple times in this fight. Teixeira, he was dominated, a lot in this fight, but he did have a couple moments where I thought that Hill could have been in trouble, but Hill either stuffed the takedown or got off of his back, which was really, really impressive. I didn't expect that from Jamal Hill. His groundwork was pretty decent, especially defensively. He was able, like I said, to get up when he was on his back. And Jamal Hill, just what a striking clinic he really put on Glover Teixeira. Just Teixeira was busted up really bad. But he was able to fight through it. He didn't get finished. And he's like 42, and man, he just put up, a valiant effort. He tried his hardest from start to finish. Glover Teixeira, he really did, but it was not enough. And Jamal Hill is your new UFC light heavyweight champion. He is the first person from Dana White's Contender Series to become a UFC champion. So that is big for that show. You know, they have a lot of great prospects come out of that show. So I feel like he will not be the last to do it. And Glover Teixeira, after the fight, announces his retirement from MMA. Just an absolute legend, an absolute really nice human being. Glover Teixeira is. I just wish him the best in his retirement. And, it's great that he was able to break through and become champion eventually. He showed a lot of persistence through his career. And, just a great display of heart really shown in this fight to Glover Teixeira. So congratulations on a great career, Glover. And Jamal Hill, congratulations on becoming the new UFC light heavyweight champion. All right, moving on to Bellator 290. They start this weekend off with MMA on YouTube. Their prelims are free on YouTube. I usually post a link on my Twitter page, so definitely look out for that tweet. It's always great to have free MMA, especially from a major organization. Looking through the prelims, there is a couple fights that are going to be free that you can watch. We have the former Bellator bantamweight champion Darren Caldwell. He is back. And we also have Chris Gonzalez on the prelims. And we have Steve Mowry. If you remember, he took the time to talk to me a little while back. So definitely rooting for Steve Mowry. Hope he comes out with the victory. In his last fight, it ended in a no contest because of inadvertent eye poke. So, let's hope Steve Mowry gets the win. And Steve, I am definitely rooting for you. Go and get that knockout victory. Moving on in this prelims, we have Lorenzo Larkin taking on Muhammad Berkomov. I hope I didn't butcher his name too much, but this is actually a rematch between them. In their first fight, it ended in a no contest. I believe there was an illegal blow thrown that one of them, I believe it was Berkomov, he could not recover, so it ended in no contest. So glad to see that these two are getting, another shot to, fight each other. Moving on, we got Naming Gracie. He's taking on Dante Shrio, and we also have Jalen Bates, who is a really intriguing bantamweight prospect, and we have Jornel Lugo, who's a really good submission artist. Now let's move on to the main card of Bellator 290. Of course, this is Fedor's retirement fight. He is going to be taking on Ryan Bader, who is the heavyweight champion. But first, let's get to some other fights on this main card. Kicking off this main card, we have Sabah Hamasi taking on Brandon Ward. This is the definition of a banger. This will be non-stop action and violence. These two guys are forward-moving fighters. They both throw bombs. They're both super aggressive, and they both look for the finish. I mean, I saw Hamasi's last fight in person, and he slept a guy in the cage. He hit him so hard that his head bounced off of the cage. Hamasi, a knockout artist. Brandon Ward, I believe he has 100% finishing rate on all of his wins. Man, I am pumped for this fight. I got a great soundbite from Hamasi last time I was at his fight. I was able to ask him a question, and this is what he said.
What was your game plan?
What's that?
What was your game plan coming into the fight?
The what?
The game plan?
To fucking knock him out. Gave him a goddamn Ambien. Motherfucker's snoozing. He's probably sleepwalking right now somewhere. Someone go find the man.
Thank you.
And like I said, he is entertaining in and outside of the cage. Brandon Ward equally just as entertaining. So excited for that fight. The next fight is for the Bellator Middleweight World Championship. We got the champ, Johnny Eblen, taking on Antotov Tukov. I believe that's how you say his name. Tukov is a Team Fedor guy. He's 31-2. So definitely, he is going to be a tough challenge for Johnny Eblen. But again, I was there for Johnny Eblen for his fight against Gegard Mousasi, and what a performance that was by Eblen. It really impressed me. Really opened a lot of people's eyes to his talent, and very excited to see his first title defense. And of course, in the main event of the evening, we have the heavyweight champion Ryan Bader taking on the one and only Fedor, the last Emperor Emelianenko. And this is big. Obviously Fedor, he's much older now. He's out of his prime, but still, he packs a lot of speed. If you saw his Tim Johnson fight, I think I counted him out a little bit too much in that fight. I thought Tim Johnson had a good chance to win that, but I mean, when you see that sequence where he knocks out Tim Johnson, he still has that speed and power, but it really comes down to Fedor's chin. How much damage is he going to be able to take? And I think that's going to be the difference in this fight. These two did meet, I believe, 4 years ago. It was just like 38 seconds. Bader was able to, connect with a big punch and finish Fedor. So, very excited to see what path Ryan Bader takes. Is he going to try to grapple with him, or is he going to try to pounce on him and look for that finish early? Because when you get, Fedor on the ground, he has that sambo background. He's got great hip tosses. I mean, he's got the speed of a middleweight still at, I believe he's 45. So, Fedor, this is something that you really don't want to miss. This is a legend of MMA, retiring, and he could retire as a champion potentially. But I'm going to take Ryan Bader in this fight. I just think he's younger. His chin can take more damage if it comes to that. He's got the wrestling to kind of help with Fedor's, really good sambo background, but I think Bader is going to be able to get it done. I'm going to pick him to finish Fedor. There's going to be a lot of legends in the building for this last fight. So if you were able to stream this, it's going to be on CBS and Paramount Plus. This is a big event for Bellator. MMA hasn't been on CBS since, I believe, 2010 with Strikeforce. So definitely excited for this banger of a card. Let's move on to UFC. All right, and now let's get to UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivak. This card was supposed to be in South Korea, I believe, but the Korean Zombie, who was supposed to main event this fight, got injured. So this is now a Apex event. So let's get into this card. We have a lot of fighters who, are looking to prove something on this card. We got Taishiro Taira, who is 12-0. He's a flyweight. He has, a lot of potential. He's kicking off this card. He is only 22, I believe, 23. So, he's got a lot of time to develop into a top contender. Moving on, we have a middleweight bout. We have Park Jung-young taking on Dennis Tillman. We have a women's flyweight bout. We have Ji Young Kim taking on Mandy Boheme. We have a flyweight bout. We have Choi Sung-guk taking on Park Hyung Sung. And we have a bantamweight bout. We have Toshimi Kazama taking on Rihang Nakamura. And we have a featherweight bout. We have Lee Jung-young taking on Yi Za. And we have a lightweight bout. We have Azeka Shung-hee taking on Enshu Jabli. If I butchered any of those names, I do apologize. These last 4 fights are the finales to the road to UFC. I wasn't able to watch any of that because it was on UFC Fight Pass. Still don't have that yet. Working towards, getting that as one of my subscriptions. So moving on now to the main card. We have Yasuke Kinoshita starting the card off against Adam Frugit. And, Kinoshita, what a performance on Dana White's Contender Series. That is how he got his UFC contract. He's 6-1. His only loss is a DQ loss because he grabbed the cage while leg stomping an opponent. The leg stomping was legal, but he was disqualified because he grabbed the fence. So that is his only loss. He's taking on Adam Frugit, who is 8-3. He's 34 years old. Kinoshita is 22. So look, we have a young star in Kinoshita. He had, like I said, he had a great TKO finish on Dana White's Contender Series. So he had a great moment in that fight, which was the beginning of the end for his opponent. He pulled, and he came back with a great punch. Really rocked his opponent and finished him on the ground. So Kinoshita, really looking forward to his fight. Next up, we have a featherweight bout. We have Choi Do-ho taking on Kyle Nelson. And Choi Do-ho, fresh off of his UFC Hall of Fame fight being inducted. It was him versus Cub Swanson. That was, a great fight. So the newly minted Hall of Famer, he comes back after not fighting since 2019. Choi Do-ho, he's just an action fighter. He's called the Superboy, because he does a lot of spectacular things in that octagon. Kyle Nelson, he's had a bit of a rough spell in the UFC. He's got 1 win, but I believe he's lost about 3 out of those, fights. So, Kyle Nelson really looking to get back into the win column. He's also moving down to featherweight from lightweight. So, Choi Do-ho is can't miss. So definitely looking forward to this possibly, potentially fight of the night. Moving on, we got a heavyweight bout. We got Marcin Tybura taking on Bioki Ivanok. And Tybura, he won against Alexander Romanovsky, which I did not think that, he was going to be able to win that fight. Alexander Romanov was 16-0 going into that. So, Tybura, he's, in my opinion, he's a little bit underrated at heavyweight. He's been in the top 10 for a really long time. Moving on, we have a light heavyweight co-main event. We have Zhang Da-un taking on Devin Clark. And of course, in the main event, we have a heavyweight bout. We have Derek Lewis taking on Sergey Spivak. This fight was supposed to take place at another UFC fight night, but in the middle of the show, it was announced per broadcast that fight was off. So, that card was, the main event was scrapped in the middle of the ongoing card, which was really unfortunate, but they were able to get this fight back together. It turns out Derek Lewis had COVID, and he didn't know at the time until he went back home and got tested. But, he had COVID, and, he still wanted to fight, obviously, because, that's what fighters do. They want to fight no matter how they really feel, if they think they can go out and toughen it out. I did go over this fight a little bit when it was supposed to happen, but really the gist of what I said was it's Spivak, he's a grappler. He's got really good hip tosses. He wants to get on top of you and ground and pound you into oblivion, and that's how he wins. I mean, he manhandled, Greg Hardy. He got that ground and pound finish. So, he's going to be looking to clinch up and really just hip toss you to the ground. Now, Derek Lewis, he's got a lot of power. He's got really good uppercuts. If he can catch Spivak coming in when he's trying to clinch or even shoot, a situation like the Curtis Blades knockout, could happen where Lewis just times that uppercut, perfectly to the shot and just, KOs, he could KO Spivak, coming in or hurt him really bad when he's trying to come in for a clinch or a takedown. Derek Lewis, I mean, he can just somehow stand up, I guess. And, that's how he kind of just gets up from bad positions. But with Spivak, I do not think he's just going to be able to stand up and kind of break his lock. Spivak is a really, really, high-skilled grappler. So it's going to be between Derek Lewis's power and how carefully Spivak kind of closes the distance in this fight. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To stay in touch with the podcast, go on Twitter and type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. I will pop up. I'm almost to 100 followers on Twitter, so I would appreciate a follow there. The Instagram handle is the KO_podcast. And of course, the YouTube channel is the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. That is going to do it for this episode. I hope you all have a safe and great day. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.